What is good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look and giving you my prediction for the trilogy between Canelo, Alvarez, and Triple G. It's going down this weekend on the Zone pay-per-view. Before we get into the video, if you do enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. Be sure to let me know who you think is going to win the trilogy in the comment section down below, and let's get it. Man, this is a huge fight. I think it's a fight which has been really wanted for a while. But my biggest question around the sort of fight, I guess you could say, is it too late? You know, has Canelo kind of done kind of a similar thing to what Floyd did to him? I mean, it was too early for Canelo against Floyd, but is this one too late for Triple G against Canelo? Is he too old? You know, since their second fight, both fighters have had quite a few fights. You know, I think Triple G's output in terms of fights has been certainly quite a bit less than Canelo's, but you know, he's had a few fights. He's looked decent in some of those fights, but he hasn't necessarily blew the roof off the building, I guess you could say. His last fight against Morata was a real interesting fight in terms of how he fought and, you know, the sort of problems Morata gave him. I think early on in the fight, Morata looked, you know, kind of semi-dominant, I guess you could say. He was having a lot of success to the body of Triple G, and he was landing straight shots in the middle. For me, you know, it did take Triple G a while to kind of warm up and get into the fight against Morata. But when he did look very good. Ended up finishing Morata, I think, in round 9 in the end. But it was a fun fight while it lasted. And, you know, it was an interesting one because it definitely showed flaws in his game at this moment in time. For Canelo, he's actually coming off a loss against Dimitri Bivol, in which was kind of a weird one. You know, going into it, a lot of people picked Bivol, and they were very right to do it, and a lot of people picked Canelo. In terms of Canelo's performance against Bivol, it was very, I guess you could say, underwhelming. He didn't really do the things that we're used to seeing him doing, and Bivol fought behind a very educated jab, and his defense was very, very good. You know, but since their fight, Canelo has fought a lot more fights since the Triple G 2 fight. In terms of the level of opponents, they've been hit and miss, in my opinion. You know, the likes of Rocky Fielding isn't exactly the highest level for him, and the Yildirim fight was certainly a weird one. But he's definitely fought some really high-level guys. You look at the win over Caleb Plant, which was very impressive. The Billy Joe Saunders fight I was really impressed with. And even going up in weight and finishing Sergey Kovalev, in which was a really impressive feat for him. But in terms of this fight, how they match up, it's kind of a perfect sort of fight. I think, you know, Triple G isn't the sort of fighter who is gonna move around and make Canelo chase him, which is kind of suited for Canelo because he can kind of sit in front and use his sort of head movement to evade strikes and counter. For Triple G, you know, Canelo's kind of the perfect opponent for him because he isn't gonna have to go searching either. He's going to sit right in front of him. Yes, he's going to move with his, you know, lower body a little bit to get in and out of range and use his upper body to move out the way and evade strikes, but they kind of suit each other in that way. The thing which really worries me about this fight is the Morata fight and, you know, the success that Morata was able to have against Triple G. I did a video reacting to it quite a while back, and, you know, there was talks about the trilogy then. And for me, it's a tough one because Gennady Golovkin looked really vulnerable to the body in that fight, and I'm not sure if it's just a one-time thing. You know, he's now 40 years old, which is kind of it's pretty old for the weight that he's at. You know, I think Canelo's around 33, 34. So, you know, he's got a big age advantage there for Canelo, and you know, for me, if Triple G's going to win this fight, he's going to have to be able to take some of those shots to the body, which are going to be a lot more, I guess you could say, precise and powerful compared to Morata fight. What we have seen between these two fighters in the past is that they both have absolutely granite chins and, you know, can take absolutely anything in terms of punishment. For me, Triple G has always been one of those guys that I have loved to watch, and I would love nothing more than to see him get a win in this fight. But I do think it's going to be extremely hard. I think in terms of the judges, we've seen in the past two fights that they don't really like Triple G against Canelo. I guess boxing is a bit rigged like that, and I certainly thought that he won the first fight. The second fight, a lot closer. I know a lot of people scored the second fight for Canelo, but a lot of people scored it for Triple G as well. But the first fight, in my opinion, it was complete utter robbery against Triple G. In this fight, I think the only way you're probably going to beat Canelo in this fight is with a finish, and I don't think Triple G can do it. Yes, I think the way he could hurt Canelo is probably to the body as well. I don't think that Canelo, his defense is necessarily suited towards taking body shots. I think he uses quite a high guard, and there's definitely going to be chances there. But for me, I find it hard to pick against Canelo in this fight. I think Canelo's going to get it done, probably by a decision, in which is a lot closer than is probably going to be displayed on the scorecards. I think Canelo is probably going to, catch the eye of the judges in terms of he's probably going to hold the center of the ring for a lot of times. And I also think some of the body shots he's going to land are going to have some visual effect on Triple G. I think both guys are probably going to land some massive headshots at some stage in the fight. But I don't think it's really going to affect either of them. They've both got absolute granite chins that they've shown throughout the years. And, I'm kind of disappointed that this fight is taking place now. I think this fight needed to happen a few years ago. It was a huge fight when people were talking about making it because of the first two fights and how successful they were in terms of viewership and, sort of the hype surrounding the fight. But now it seems like the hype for it is still there, but not as high as it was, a few years back. For me, if this fight would have happened a few years back, I would have favoured Triple G for sure. I do think he's kind of got the number of Canelo in certain ways, in terms of the fact that he isn't really scared of the power, and defensively, despite not being the greatest defensive fighter in terms of visually and looking at him, he is good enough to kind of keep himself safe in certain situations. For me, I've always thought that the perfect fighter against Canelo, you got to have a really good educated jab to beat him. I think you got to throw more than one. You got to throw in combinations, which I think Beevil did great. And also, you got to be defensively responsible and a real good defensive fighter. My dream matchup to fight Canelo would have been Joe Calzaghe. I think that would have been a fun one. Win or lose, I think Calzaghe would have given problems. But in this fight, I'm going to go for a Canelo win. I think Canelo just has enough to get this one done. I think an aging Golovkin, I don't think he's going to be there, as much as he was down the foot. It's kind of like the back end of the fight. I think Canelo can pick it up from there, and I think a stoppage is available, but I just don't see it happening. I'm going to go with a decision for Canelo Alvarez. Let me know who you think is going to win it in the comment section down below. I'm really interested because I enjoyed the first two fights so much, and I hope this third one can kind of deliver on kind of the promise that the first two set out. But I find it hard to believe, at this stage in Triple G's career, he's going to be able to perform at the levels that he did in the past. Let me know who you've got winning, and let me know, sort of the method why. Is it going to be a finish? Is it going to be a decision? And I'll be back later on with another video. I'm going to be giving you my UFC picks for this weekend. Sandhagen taking on Song Yadong, in which is a really stacked UFC fight night. I can't wait for both events. If you are interested of the MMA side of things, be sure to go check that out. And if not, I'll see you next week with my kind of reaction to this fight. It's a really fun card as well. You got some super, interesting fights on it. Gabe Rosado on there, who's always interesting. Mark Castro, is it? The young Mexican fighter. I've been a fan of him for a while. You keep getting tougher and tougher opponents now, and super interesting to watch him. I'll see you next week, guys. Have a great weekend, and peace out.